The Falklands War was a 74-day undeclared conflict fought in 1982 between Argentina and the United Kingdom over control of the Falkland Islands in the South Atlantic. Both countries claimed ownership of the remote islands for many years. Britain had ruled them since 1833. Argentina was suffering from economic crises and protests. The military government hoped an invasion would unite the country in patriotic pride. Here are a pair of Falkland titles. First, an RAF special, giving the RAF their first major challenge since the Second World War. The second film is called Sea of Fire, a 2007 documentary film detailing the tragic bombing and sinking of the British destroyer HMS Coventry, D118, during the 1982 Falklands War. Now, 46 years later, we watch with concern the conflict in Iran, waiting for a major ship hit and unnecessary lost lives in this new war. I won't comment, enjoy is the wrong word, but we can appreciate this pair of Falkland titles.
On the 2nd of April 1982, Argentinian forces landed on the British protectorate of the Falkland Islands in the South Atlantic. The Argentine claimed the islands as their own, never thinking that Britain, some 8,000 miles away, would call its bluff. The Falklands conflict was the biggest test for the RAF since the Second World War. The first of the South Atlantic Task Force left Portsmouth in southern England on the 5th of April 1982. The RAF's roles were strike, surveillance support and SAR operations using Vulcans, which were actually due for the scrap heap, Harriers, Nimrods, Hercules, VC-10s, Victors and Sea King helicopters to ensure that the task force ran the Argentinians out of the Falklands. One of the most audacious raids ever mounted in the history of aviation began at 11 p.m. on the night of the 30th of April when two Vulcans took off from the Ascension Islands accompanied by two Victor tankers and headed for Port Stanley Airfield on the Falkland Islands. One of the Vulcans failed to pressurize, so the second continued on its 16-hour flight to the target. Operation Black Buck was well underway. After its fifth airborne refueling, the Vulcan dropped to 250 feet above the ocean for the last 300 miles. Then it pulled up to 10,000 feet before dropping 21 1,000-pound bombs bang on the runway at Port Stanley. But it was the Harriers of both the Navy and the RAF that received their baptism of fire during that war. The RAF had flown their GR3s from England via the Ascension Islands to the Falklands, refueling in the air as they went. On May the 1st, a Navy Sea Harrier flown by an RAF officer, Flight Lieutenant Paul Barton, shot down an Argentine Mirage with his Sidewinder missiles. Harrier was at war, and it destroyed 20 enemy aircraft, while 9 Harriers were downed, none by Argentine aircraft. Out to sea, the greatest danger was from the French-made Super Étendard carrying the sea-skimming Exocet missile. One got through and decimated the Atlantic conveyor. Operation Corporate came to its conclusion with the surrender of the Argentinian forces on the 14th of June 1982. The RAF, yet again, proved that air support is absolutely essential in any modern war, however far away you are from home. As the Falklands conflict came to an end, the RAF received the first of its Panavia Tornadoes, the GR Mark I. This multi-role combat aircraft was an international project between Germany, Belgium, Canada, the Netherlands, Italy, and Great Britain. It has variable geometry wings. It's fitted with terrain-following radar, which means that it can fly at ultra-low level and very high speed in any weather, day or night. And it hits its target right on the button. Tornado, just as the Phantom before it, had to protect Britain's shores 24 hours a day. But in the modern world, the backup for the pilot has had to become more and more sophisticated.
4,000 feet. Roger. 025, 55, left right heading 180, 4,000 feet.
Got contact. Keep talking.
Target's descending. 030, 35. Displace right heading 180.
40 knots accelerating.
Roger. Target's indicating 250 feet.
Roger.
035, 25.
Roger.
04010. Displace right heading 180, 250 feet.
Visual, 1 o'clock, pair low.
Hard starboard 180, target heading.
Turning.
0702.
Roger.
Crossing left right.
Closing guns. Target's turning. Counter right, go. Target's pulling high. Fox 3. Climbing. Fox 3. Complete.
Today's airborne battles will be fought at or near supersonic speeds. The pilots and navigators that fly these aircraft depend on the experience and expertise of their fighter controllers to guide them safely and successfully onto their targets.
Police acknowledged. Return to camp, vector 250.
These are the RAF's battle managers. The radar information that flows into this operations room gives a picture of the position of every civilian and military aircraft in the sector. This information comes in first to these recognition officers.
When you do get an unidentified track, you can never be totally sure of what the aircraft is going to do next.
Their job is to know the identity of every aircraft that comes into their area from its radar response, known as a track. Any aircraft that cannot be identified and does not respond to interrogation, they pass up the line to their boss, a track production officer, for a wider assessment.
Can you get the AW buffer man, please? We've got AW operations.
I'd never be able to find another job like this one. You've got to be decisive. It's not a job everyone's capable of.
The AWACS to move 50 miles further north.
If the aircraft still remains unidentified, the information must be passed on up to the master controller. It's down to him then to decide on a course of action. He's the kingpin. He's the battle manager.
Tate's got that up to date, will you? I run the battle. I decide what action to take and when. Down here in the operations room, we've got a complete and up-to-date picture of all the activity in the United Kingdom Air Defence Network. It's 100% accurate to the second.
If the master controller decides to intercept, he'll pass the order down to his fighter allocator, who rapidly assess the status of the aircraft available to him to combat the threat.
The fighter cap Foxtrot Lima for Boomer Fighter Stud 197. Scramble, scramble, scramble.
It's like playing three-dimensional chess with pieces moving at speeds of up to 500 miles an hour.
The fighter allocator will deploy what aircraft he considers necessary for the mission, then hand over control to one of his intercept controllers. It's they who'll finally guide the fighters onto their targets.
Falcon 1 and 2 on channel.
Hello, I've got Magic 63 calling. He would like a brief for his tasking.
The recognition officers are directly responsible to their track production officer. They monitor all the track data coming in from several recognition officers.
Proceed to area UK 33.
It's my job to put the whole picture together.
Below flight level 200. Speed above.
I have to ensure that accurate and up-to-date information is coming in at all times. Also, that there's no duplication of data or gaps in the radar coverage. If I do detect a gap, it's my job to fill it and fast, using airborne early warning aircraft, air defence capable ships, or by relocating a mobile radar unit.
Do you copy? Over.
These radar units are commanded by a track production officer, who is responsible for the safety and administration of the convoy, as well as ensuring that the best possible radar picture is provided for the area. You really have to be able to think well ahead and manage both the technical and the operational side of the radar. Soon after I arrived at RAF Bulmer, I met some of the pilots on 202 Search and Rescue Squadron. They share the same station as us. They persuaded me to help them out occasionally at weekends, to give them some valuable practice winching me out of the North Sea.
The track production officer relays all the relevant data from the recognition side through to the master controller.
Alpha Lima being detected by the ship. This is the hot seat, right at the heart of things. During exercises or war, I run the short-term battle plan.
The fighter allocator, probably a flight lieutenant, is responsible for assigning controllers their targets. In peacetime, he coordinates the flying program for the fighter squadrons in his sector. Once the fighter allocator has chosen his aircraft and made contact, he hands over control to his intercept controllers.
Rooster 2, target port 340. Rooster 1, starboard 1.
My task is to direct the intercepting fighters onto the target so that it can be first identified and, if necessary, destroyed. I'm responsible for the safety of both crew and aircraft. In peacetime, I look after something like 40 practice intercepts a month. I work very closely with and rely on my assistants.
Flight level 245.
Apart from the RAF's fighter intercept ability, heavy reliance for our air defence is put on our Bloodhound surface-to-air, or SAM, missiles. The officer in command of surface-to-air operations is known as the engagement controller. The post would be filled by an officer from the systems side of the branch. He's responsible for the missiles, the launchers, the launch control post, and the day-to-day management of the section. He works through his control and reporting centre, but he's often got to act on his own initiative. In a war, it would be down to his command to fire the missiles.
Good look out to the east and the southeast.
Fighter controllers have now begun flying duties with the Airborne Early Warning Mission crews on the RAF's E-3 aircraft.
SC1, TD, net 3. TD, SC1.
Of the 17-man crew, 9 will be fighter controllers.
Status.
DD Link Manager, IGIMS and DRV established with Boomer and Neatis Head.
4 times a year, the RAF takes part in full-scale NATO exercises.
Strength 2, no squawk.
Got that, thank you. The battle manager must keep ahead of the game. Allocator, Razor 1 and 2 to New Combat Air Patrol, Juliet Whiskey Foxtrot.
Jane, move Razor 1 and 2 to New Combat Air Patrol, Juliet Whiskey Foxtrot.
You've got to think ahead. Get your aircraft airborne before they get you.
2, heading south at 4,000 feet. Mission intercept, engage.
Razor 1 and 2, snap 030. 2 targets 02565, heading south.
Roger, Razor 1.
02560. Left right heading 180 4000.
Roger.
02040. 02030. Displace right heading 180. Targets descending.
Got contact. Keep talking.
Targets level 250 feet, descend 1000. Hard starboard 180. 102. South 1.
Roger.
Closing guns. Target's turning. Go. Target's pulling high. Fox 3. Complete.
When it works, well, we all know we've got it right.
Roger, complete acknowledged. Return to camp, vector 250.
All these skills were soon to be needed in the Gulf War, and Tornado was to prove itself in combat far sooner than anyone could have imagined, because the Iraqi army invaded Kuwait on the 2nd of August 1990. Saddam Hussein angered the world to such a degree that an international task force was sent into the region to counter the Iraqi aggression, after a request from Kuwait. Jaguar was used as a tank buster during the desert conflict. They were based at Al-Marak as they were prepared for battle. RAF Tornadoes were used in their capacity as long-range bombers to knock out Iraqi airfields and pinpoint targets. The Buccaneer, again due for retirement, also came out of mothballs to lead the Tornadoes onto their targets. Out to sea, Harriers arrived in style for their second war in a decade, while Sea Kings were brought in to detect mines in the Gulf itself. they were also on standby in their role as rescue aircraft. On the 17th of January 1991, Tornadoes took off for their first real sortie into enemy territory with all the most modern equipment on hand. Long hours went by, deep into the night, as the crews waited for the Tornadoes to return.
Suddenly, at last, flickering lights in the distant dawn, the first formation of Tornadoes was safely back. The young British pilots had flown deep into the heart of Iraq to attack military airfields and other targets, low-level flying to slip under enemy radar, dodging missiles and anti-aircraft flak, catching the Iraqis by surprise in this first encounter of an aerial microchip war. When the pilots had radioed back, mission successful, there was unrestrained joy in the command's operations centre. And as the aircrew wearily left the cramped cockpit of their planes, there were congratulations for the pilots and navigators who had braved the unknown and returned safely to tell about the fear and tension of it all.
Absolutely terrifying. There's no word for it. You're frightened of failure, you're frightened of dying. Oh, it's everything. You're flying as low as you dare, high enough to get the weapons off, but you push it as low as you can over the target just to get away as fast as you can.
Successful though the attack may have been in paralysing Iraq's air force, albeit temporarily perhaps, the state of readiness is not being relaxed. Ever since the bombing blitz, the Tornado pilots have remained keyed up and ready to go into action.
Well, they've come back, they've reported the firing of missiles, explosions, lots of ground fire coming from Kuwait. They've been able to see that from the air. It was obviously a very busy night in Kuwait.
Even as Allied pilots waited for their next mission, another chemical attack alarm. Ground crews quickly donning their gas masks once again, but no panic in what has now become a well-drilled task in reaching the safety of the bomb-proof bunkers, though this time it was no exercise. Pilots and navigators fully protected in their nuclear, biological and chemical suits arriving for a final briefing.
Although the huge task force returned Kuwait to its rightful owners, the Gulf War was a war that nobody really won. 1991, old blood feuds between the ethnic communities in the former Yugoslavia saw the breakup of the country into Slovenia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro and Croatia. By 1993, full-scale war had broken out in the Balkans. In March 1993, the United Nations authorized action to ban all flights over the Republic of Bosnia. Operation Deny Flight was organized with the RAF playing a major role. Operation Deny Flight was meant to contain the Bosnian Serbs' newly acquired air force, and the RAF, in conjunction with many NATO air forces, buckled down to its various tasks. One of them was to directly support NATO troops on the ground. To this end, both Jaguar and Tornado were deployed. The Tornado F-3s were the prime British air superiority aircraft in Deny Flight.
Tornado F-3 has a completely different role to the Harrier, which is close air support. Our job is air defence operations, and our aircraft is optimised for finding other aircraft, be it helicopters, transport or fixed-wing aircraft. We have various equipment to help us do that. We have a radar, which is optimised for long-range detection, and we have missiles that we can use at long range or close range, and we have a gun. We also have various bits of equipment that help defend ourselves if we need to. The rollout here is far more difficult than, for example, Desert Storm. Because in Desert Storm we had one enemy. Here there are many factions involved. Politically it's more sensitive, and we have a lot of UN troops dispersed throughout the area. So in terms of making a political decision to prosecute attack, that is a difficult decision, and to make sure we don't cause any fratricide, that is difficult militarily. So overall it is a very sensitive operation, both politically and militarily.
The versatile Harrier GR7 was a further backup to the NATO troops.
We get airborne, and you can tell us to go anywhere in the theatre, and we can go there. We've got the fuel, we've got the range, we've got the bombs that we carry. And again, it's, carrying the big stick, if you like, the threat. We all hear about drawing the lines in the sand. Well, we're part of that. We are that line. You step beyond it, the guys on the ground then can call upon us, to give them some help.
Keeping track of all this action are the men and women serving in the AWACS. This control room in the sky is the E-3 Sentry based on the Boeing 707 airframe. 3 RAF Sentries were initially deployed over Bosnia. The aircraft can stay airborne for 11 hours without refueling. The crew can keep track of friendly or enemy aircraft for hundreds of square miles with the E-3's sophisticated radar.
We're actually here to provide the ground commanders with the fact that an aircraft is airborne. That's our primary job. To provide early warning is our primary job. So as soon as we spot it, we will use a different, effectively it's a different symbol for a Serb aircraft that's recognised, and that is then linked to the ground, and they get it immediately real time. So then I'll back that up with a voice report and say what we can see, and then it's literally passed to a higher authority as to what action they're going to take from there, and then we work from their commands. So the fighters are there, they're always there, but we're going to work from the higher command as to what we're going to do with any enemy aircraft.
What we do is we fly what we call a racetrack orbit. That orbit effectively ensures that we can give the best radar picture for the guys down the back so that they can look at whatever they need to look at. So we can fly different kinds of patterns, but it's all dependent on what we're trying to look at and to give the mission crew down the back the optimum picture.
At the end of August 1995, the Serbs renewed the shelling of Sarajevo. NATO struck back with Operation Deliberate Force.
This time it's a UK GR-7 Harrier aircraft, and once again on an ammunition storage depot.
The ferocity of this operation finally pushed the warring factions around the negotiating table, and relative peace was restored in Bosnia. Yet again, the RAF had acquitted itself with the utmost professionalism. In June 1997, a 2-week exercise, Operation Filfoil, involving 9 NATO nations, was directed by the commander of the Harrier Force, Group Captain Clive Loader. His base was a disused airfield at Sculthorpe in Norfolk.
I'm not sure if we're going to learn anything new, except to say that we need to practice the type of operation that we've seen over Bosnia and Iraq. They don't just happen. You can't just go to theatre and expect on day one to get those things right. They are complicated processes, both in the planning and in the coordination and the execution of those sorties. And it's very important for NATO that it is able to practice these in the appropriate scenario, so that it has a high confidence level that when you go on operations, when after all, at day one, people may well be firing things at you, surface to air and air to air, that you've already got your game plan worked out, you're professional, and the losses will be absolutely minimized. Since the demise of the Cold War, we've revamped the Harrier Force concept of operations, and the government requires us to be able to operate from a spectrum of locations, from a fully found, fully hardened NATO-type base, right down through a civil military airfield to an austere location where we have to go and take everything that we need, all the consumables of war, and indeed all of the other admin support of people who are going to support the aircraft's operation. All of that has to be brought into a bare base airfield, and that is exactly what we're practicing here at Sculthorpe. And yes, it is very typical of what we could be asked to do. only have to think about things that are going on in Africa and the like at the moment. We could be asked to go and carry out reconnaissance and other operations from places where there would be very little indigenous support.
We have been too flexible for our own good, and clearly the risk is, you become a jack of all trades. And indeed, with the advent of UN peacekeeping operations over Bosnia, everything now moving up to medium to high level in those theatres, but still having to retain the low level capability, the demands that we're making of the young aircrew compared to when I joined the Harrier Force, I mean, they're significantly greater. And I continue to be impressed with the way they can get their minds around the problem and do it. We now have a very genuine night capability, and indeed we have a poor weather capability by day. So that's a significant improvement. But in addition, with the additional pylons, the additional fuel load, we can carry a combination of a greater payload further, or a smaller payload a lot further, and that's giving us the ability to engage in other conventional Air Force operations like air interdiction.
Because of the time scales for development of new aircraft these days, it won't surprise you to know that we're already well down the road of looking for the successor to the Harrier. Whether it's a vertical landing and vertical takeoff type aircraft, I don't yet know. It will certainly be an aircraft which will have a very short takeoff capability and a very short landing capability.
The replacement for the ubiquitous Harrier will be the F-35 from Lockheed in America. Joint Strike Fighter is a single-seat supersonic aircraft capable of performing multi-role operations from either the aircraft carrier or from the land. Current plans call for some 150 aircraft for the RAF and the Royal Navy. Also incorporated into the F-35 is stealth technology to reduce detection by radar, a first for the RAF. When compared to the Harrier, JSF will be a major improvement over both designs. The F-35 will be able to carry twice the payload over twice the distance of the GR-7 and, more importantly, be capable of supersonic flight.
And you're clear for the XL to 1.2.
Moving out. Come on, baby, let's go. Come on, come on, come on, come on. 1.19. 1.2 Mach. We're smoking along here.
Its roles in the RAF will be air interdiction and close air support for air action against hostile targets that are in close proximity to friendly forces.
Lots of power. Your roll field's nice here.
Early testing by British crews were very favourable.
And coming down right in the middle of the pad. Hover stop isn't quite right. Let's keep it going down. Keep it going down. Come on, baby. Come down, come down, come down, come down. Touchdown. Just beautiful. No problems at all.
On the 7th of October 2001, the United Nations sent an international task force into Afghanistan in a military operation against Al-Qaeda terrorists supported by the Taliban regime. Again, the RAF was involved, with No. 2 Group Strike Command transporting troops, munitions and all the paraphernalia of war in the C-17A Globemaster, which saw its RAF operational debut in the Afghanistan conflict.
Auto throttle. minimum.
It's used purely as a strategic heavy transport flying into established air bases, in this case, Bahrain. Although the C-17 is capable of landing on rough, unprepared airstrips, in reality, it's the job of the mighty Hercules to deliver the goods directly into the war zone. In war-torn Afghanistan, the helicopter played its part in flushing out the enemy. The RAF operates the largest fleet of Chinook support helicopters after the US Army. The Chinook Wing, which forms the heavy lift element of the Joint Helicopter Command, is based at RAF Odium in Hampshire. The aircraft can be armed with two M134 six-barreled miniguns and an M60 machine gun. Chinooks are used primarily for trooping and for load carrying, both internal and underslung, and can carry up to 54 troops or 10 tons of freight. The Chinook crew consists of either two pilots, or a pilot and navigator, and two air loadmasters. TriStar is yet another arm of the RAF's transport and refuelling inventory, soon to be replaced by the Airbus A330. The Chinook is a very capable and versatile support helicopter and has been involved in most of the recent UK operations from Northern Ireland, the Gulf War, peacekeeping in the Balkans, evacuation of Sierra Leone, and operations in Afghanistan. An addition to the VIP inventory is the twin Squirrel with two engines which allow it to fly over large cities. The RAF has a fleet of Puma HC-1 helicopters. They first entered service in 1971 and are available as support helicopters within the Joint Helicopter Command. The Pumas and Chinooks are used in the classic support roles of tactical troop and load movement by day or by night. Another role for the Air Force is search and rescue, provided by the twin-engine Sea King, fitted with advanced all-weather search and navigation equipment. The RAF's newest helicopter is the three-engined Merlin HC-3, which can carry up to 24 fully equipped troops into battle. In RAF service since 1966, the VC-10 is used in two versions, as a freight tanker or four-engined passenger aircraft that can carry 150 troops over 3,600 miles without refueling. Dedicated tanker aircraft can carry up to 78 tons of fuel. Each aircraft is a three-point tanker. Fuel is dispersed from either two wing hoses or from the single fuselage-mounted refueling point. The fuselage position mainly transfers its fuel to heavier aircraft. The bulk of the RAF's air-to-air refueling fleet comprises of VC-10 K3 and K4 aircraft flown by No. 101 Squadron based at RAF Bryce Norton. The wing hoses can transfer fuel up to 1,000 kilograms per minute to the smaller aircraft such as Tornadoes or Harriers. In 2002, an eager crew witnessed one of the early refueling sorties by the new Eurofighter or Typhoon. The VC-10 C1K is a dual-role transport and air-to-air tanker. In January 2004, it was announced that a replacement for both versions of the VC-10 had been chosen. The consortium Airbus Industry won the contract for the Airbus A330. Smaller transport aircraft were operated by No. 32 Squadron, based at RAF Northolt. The aircraft are used on domestic, overseas and rapid communications for VIPs, government ministers, senior military and royalty. The 146 was the first jet aircraft to be operated by the Royal Flight and offered twice the speed of its predecessor, the Andover. The smaller 7-seat VIP transport is the 480 mile an hour BAE 125 with a range of 2,000 miles. The MR2 version of the Nimrod is still in RAF service. Its bomb bay carries the Stingray torpedo and the Harpoon missile for the anti-surface unit mission, while for search and rescue duties, the aircraft has a selection of air-deliverable multi-seat dinghies, survival packs and other stores. In the early 1980s, Nimrod was upgraded to the MR2 standard, while the flight deck and general systems remained the same, apart from the later addition of an air-to-air refueling probe as a result of hard lessons learned during the Falklands War in 1982. The Nimrod MR2 will continue in service until all squadrons will have been re-equipped with the updated and re-engined Nimrod MRA-4s. One of the oldest jet survivors in the RAF is the Canberra PR-9. The original Canberra design dates from the 1940s. 23 production standard PR-9s were built between 1958 and 1962. Number 39 is the only remaining Canberra squadron in RAF service. During the Queen's Jubilee celebrations in 2002, the Royal Air Force contributed in many ways, including ceremonial flypasts. The RAF's new pilots were no exception. Modern RAF training needs modern aircraft. Tucano fits that bill. It's a single-engine turboprop basic flying trainer with a performance similar to jet aircraft. The Tucano was selected in 1985 to replace the RAF's Jet Provost basic flying training aircraft, which had been in service since 1955. Some 70% cheaper to operate than the Jet Provost, the Tucano used by the RAF differs from the version originally developed by Embraer of Brazil. The RAF chose the Garrett turboprop over the standard Pratt & Whitney. Other changes included a cockpit layout similar to that of the Hawk Advanced Trainer, and it has a strengthened airframe. The introduction of the 315-mile-an-hour Tucano, which entered service in 1989, allowed the RAF to streamline its basic flying training syllabus, as the aircraft offered twice the range and endurance of the Jet Provost. This means that 2 sorties can be flown before the aircraft needs to be refueled. On the 4th of June 2002, over 1 million people packed into central London to witness this spectacular RAF flypast over Buckingham Palace to celebrate the Queen's Golden Jubilee.
Looking forward to this. We're currently, if you look out the window at the moment, you can't see very much. We're just inbound to Colchester to pick up our Jaguars. We'll be descending in a couple of minutes and hopefully get visual in their local area to pick them up. Looking forward to that.
Many miles from London, the various aircraft that were to make up the flypast started to assemble. The Canberras joined up with Nimrod, followed by aircraft of the Royal Flight. Soon, London was in sight, with the formations keeping to a 2-mile separation. Then came the final run-in towards the city. Finally, the crowds broke into spontaneous applause as the RAF flew down the Strand and onto the palace. The flypast was executed with the RAF's usual split-second timing. With an ever-changing military world, the RAF has to look to the future and replacements for the Tornado F3 and Jaguar. That aircraft is the Typhoon or Eurofighter. The Typhoon is an agile, single-seat, multi-role aircraft optimized for high-altitude supersonic air combat, but also capable of operating at much lower levels in the air-to-ground roles. With 9 underwing weapon mounting points, Typhoon will be equipped with 2 ASRAMs, 4 AMRAAM missiles simultaneously carrying air-to-surface ordnance, which could include laser-guided bombs and ultimately Meteor, a combination of rocket and air-breathing technology which will replace AMRAAM as Typhoon's primary long-range air-to-air missile. The initial batch of 2-seat aircraft are Typhoon T1s. Typhoon can be equipped to undertake both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions in a single sortie, switching between the 2 separate attack modes in flight, swing-roll missions. Its roles include air defense, air interdiction, low or medium level attacks for suppression of enemy air defenses, or attacks on enemy air defense systems such as surface-to-air missile positions. In March 2003, the Americans, backed by the British government, launched the second war against Iraq in a decade. Without the sanction of the United Nations, the Allies vowed to disarm Iraq and to free its people. Once again, the RAF was to be heavily involved in the conflict. Night operations by Tornadoes and Harriers based in Kuwait were employed to bomb Iraqi air and missile defense systems and cities harboring the elite guard, fortunately with very little resistance. One daylight operation for the helicopter crews was to act on a report that the Iraqis had set fire to many of their oil fields. But after surveying the problem, it was found that only 7 of the fields had actually been ignited. But what are the dangers facing the men of the RAF?
We have specific talents that obviously some people have chosen to use, so we'll just go and do what we have to do.
The mission commander had the responsibility of delivering a Marine unit to their secret mission in the desert sand. This time they were using night vision to accomplish the task. RAF Harriers were heavily engaged in nightly attacks on Iraqi air and missile defense systems to stop any attacks on the coalition forces. Pilot Jockey Wilson, using night vision, explains what happened.
Well, because the target was a patrol boat, which was only about 40 foot long, 40 to 50 feet long, it meant that the height of the deck above the water was only probably about 5 feet. so that I saw the missile actually sort of skim in, hitting the water just short of the ship, but I saw it go through basically explode inside the boat.
There are always talks of cutbacks from the politicians, and 2004 was no exception.
The RAF will lose 1 Tornado F3 squadron, 3 Jaguar squadrons, the whole of RAF Coltishall, and a total of 7,500 personnel. Many will mourn the loss of an airbase so critical to the Battle of Britain, but that's not the kind of war we'll fight in future, so it's not the kind of base we need, say the government.
With yet another Gulf War to be finalised, the RAF does its job with precision and flair. But that flair doesn't just happen. RAF pilot training has always been of the highest calibre, from the Tutor to the Tiger Moth and the Miles Magister, to the more advanced Harvard for fighter command during those dark days of the Second World War, to the men and women of the Air Transport Auxiliary who ferried anything anywhere, and then the faithful Anson used to train Bomber Command's crews to learn at least the rudiments of getting accurately from A to B to drop their lethal loads on the enemy from the Blenheim or the Wellington, and later the Lancaster or the Vulcan. Throughout the history of flying, the practitioner has always wanted to show the aircraft to an adoring crowd. In the 30s, it was Northolt or Hendon where the curious mingled to behold the wonders of power and space. From the amphibious to the bomber, even seasoned pilots always watch and wonder at the ingenuity of these craft of the air. But surely it's the art of the aerobat that will always capture man's imagination, from the string and sealing wax of the biplane era to the sleek sophistication of the jet age. The Royal Air Force has always recognised its debt to its shareholders, the great British public, by making sure that they have a chance to witness some of the greatest aviators in the world. In the 50s and 60s, 111 Squadron, the Black Arrows, made their mark in history. No less than 16 Hunters rolled in unison. Followed by 22 aircraft in a perfect loop. The Red Pelicans from the Central Flying School dazzled an international crowd when they joined forces with the Nats that made up a new formation team, the Yellow Jacks. Those Yellow Nats from No. 4 Flying Training School at RAF Valley changed their name and the colour of their aircraft to become the world-famous Red Arrows. As time and technology took over, Strike Command's Hawks replaced the aging Gnats.
The Falklands War has reached a climax. 3 warships have been sunk, and I fear we may be next. I'm the captain of HMS Coventry. We've brought down more enemy aircraft than any other ship. We felt almost invincible, until now.
Admiral, sending us back there will be suicide.
We're under orders to lure enemy aircraft away from our troops in San Carlos Bay. I think we'll be lucky to survive the day.
And that's war. You've got to take risks to win. It's like a game of chess, you know, you've got to give up some pieces to get checkmate at the end. I was one of those pieces.
This is the captain. I have just received an urgent signal from the Commander-in-Chief ordering Coventry and other ships to break off the present exercises and prepare to proceed south to Ascension Island. We have heard that Argentina has invaded the Falkland Islands in South Georgia, and so we shall be part of a task force ready to take any action that may be necessary.
I'd never even heard of the Falklands in '82, and I can remember sitting down with a few of the lads and, you know, wondering why the Argentines had invaded Scotland, really, you know.
Stop laughing, you prick!
I regret that we shall now not be returning to Portsmouth as planned, and that there's no way of knowing how long we shall now be away for. I will keep you informed of any new developments as soon as I hear of them. That is all.
What I daren't share with my men is that I have serious doubts that we can win this war.
I was on the directing staff at our staff college where we studied various likely or possible operations, and one was what happens if the Argentinians threaten to invade the Falklands. It was a paper exercise, went on for about 3 days, and we put the students to work, and we asked them to come up with a solution. Could we or could we not retake the Falklands? And the solution was no, we really couldn't, because of the distance from UK, some 8,000 miles. So I feared for the Royal Navy and the country that we might lose it. But of course, once the ships are going down now, it's quite difficult to say bring them back.
Our job will be to defend the task force with anti-aircraft missiles. Along with our sister ships Sheffield and Glasgow, we will form a shield 20 miles ahead of the fleet.
Thank you, sir.
Evening, chaps.
Evening, sir.
3 decks below the bridge is the operations room. It's the nerve centre of the ship, where I spend most of my time. In here, my team give me a picture of what's going on outside with radar and sonar, and control the ship's main anti-aircraft weapon, the Sea Dart missile.
The major threat was the air threat. I mean, they had something like over 200 aircraft. We had 20 Sea Harriers. So very early on, there's no doubt Coventry, Glasgow and Sheffield were going to be extremely busy. And you're quite lonely out in front, because you were the first ship to be exposed and likely to be blown out of the water.
My darling, if you get this letter, I have slipped quietly beneath the waves and am utterly at peace in the next world. Please try very hard not to be too sad, although I know it will be difficult. Remember, I will always be aware when you're sad, and I will always be trying very hard to make sure you remain happy for the rest of your life. I will always be with you. Be brave. Talk about me and laugh about me. And always remember, I'm still around. All my love, David.
Hands to action stations! Hands to action stations! Come on! Resume damage control to stage 1. Coming through! Condition Zulu.
At action stations, everyone has to be in their positions, ready to fight, within 2 minutes.
Aircraft 430 inbound.
As we speed south, we continually practice defending the ship against air attack. Although many of my ship's company are still in their teens, I have every confidence in them.
All the communicators were fairly young. We were quite a young little crew. We'd all joined up together, gone through training together, and we were drafted as a block, so we'd known each other really from 3 or 4 of us since we joined up. So we were quite gung-ho about it.
Wakey, wakey, fellas. Wakey, wakey. Come on in, wake up, guys. Come on in, wakey, wakey. Rise and shine, come on, Trev.
I lived in 3 Delta, which is underneath the 4.5 gun. Must have been about 30 of us in there.
Wakey, wakey, mate. Come on.
But there's never a place you can get on your own.
Come on in, wake up.
The beds are 3 high, so there's always somebody near you or around you all the time.
Nah, tuck it into it.
I'll rephrase that, it's ooze.
I had a tortoise on board of me, a Tosh. He lived in my boot locker underneath my bed. You know, mate? He'd come on the upper deck every so often. Obviously, we had to keep him away from certain people. Not everybody knew we had him on board.
I was 19 when I first joined the ship. I mean, we just been to Gibraltar, fantastic. You know, loads of pubs. It was a good trip. I mean, despite the fact that I was married, I was probably quite carefree in the sense that, you know, I was 19, just enjoyed life.
I must tell the House that the Falkland Islands and their dependencies remain British territory. No aggression and no invasion can alter that simple fact. It is a government's objective to see that the islands are freed from occupation and are returned to British administration at the earliest possible moment.
Part of the preparations for war is getting the ship absolutely fit and ready, which means getting rid of some of the things you carried around in peacetime. So they had to go over the side, because you couldn't have them impeding movement around the ship, or indeed as a fire hazard. And I had on board all the trappings of peacetime and entertaining, so I had all my best uniforms, clothes, and I had a certain amount of silver on board, my sword, my telescope. So I must admit, I did think of actually trying to get rid of this and landing it, or transferring it to a ship, which is more likely to survive than perhaps I would. But I soon realised that if the ship's company saw, a package of the commanding officer's goodies going across to another ship, that would be bad for morale. But no, there's no way I could do that. I was caught.
It now looks certain that Argentina will fight to the very end to try to retain the Falklands. During the last few days, there's been speculation here that President Galtieri might be persuaded to enter last-minute negotiations and at least stave off a major bloodbath. 2,000 miles north of the Falklands, Admiral Woodward drops in to brief the ship's company.
Gentlemen, the Admiral.
Morning, gentlemen. Relax, please. It seems almost certain now that we shall be going to war. Diplomatic negotiations have almost ground to a halt, and the Argentines show no sign of compromising. They're certainly making no moves to get out of South Georgia and the Falkland Islands, so we are going to have to get them out. Make no mistake, this is going to be a tough war, and we can expect ship losses. You might as well face that now, and also face the fact that some of you may not be returning home.
Admiral Woodward came on board. I think his intention was to give us a pep talk, and in my view, he singularly failed. His words went along the lines of, we're going to war, we're going to get fired at, and some of you people stood here listening to me right now aren't going home. You do have to accept that. Some of you will die. And I stood there and I thought, some bloody pep talk this is.
But you must now make very thorough preparation for war. The whole country will be watching us closely and expects nothing short of total victory. I wish you all good luck and Godspeed. Thank you.
Go. And off he went, and everybody's chin was just hitting the deck. It actually got some of the younger people quite concerned. And in the engineer's workshop, it was extremely busy for a couple of days after that, because everybody was spending their time putting their names, their service number and their blood group on little brown discs called dog tags, because they thought we're all going to die.
You could certainly feel the responsibility of taking nearly 300 sailors to war. People began to look at you more closely and listen to what you had to say. And so I had to remain outwardly strong and cheerful, which I did. In fact, I was sort of buoyed up by them in a way. I couldn't let them down. But I could feel the weight of their lives being in my hands.
I have a terrible hollow feeling in my stomach as the full realization of what is happening dawns on me. With it comes a sense of being trapped, no possible escape, and of being pushed into a fight of someone else's making, a lottery of life and death.
At approximately 8 o'clock London time last night, the Argentinian cruiser, General Belgrano, was hit by torpedoes fired from a British submarine.
There was no cheering.
There was no people slapping each other on the back, well done, the war started, let's get on with it, and that sort of thing. It was a case of thinking of the sailors, really. There's a form of worldwide camaraderie amongst sailors. Yes, you're at war, yes, you've got to shoot each other, yes, you've got to make sure that they sink and you don't, but we don't take pleasure in that.
Darling Daddy, I dreamt that you came back in the middle of the night and brought some presents. One was a typewriter for Miranda, and one was a puppet for me. And for Mummy, a lovely plant. I hope you come back soon. Much love, Alice, your lovely daughter.
You will have heard the Belgrano has been sunk. Now war has really begun, we can expect the enemy to hit back hard. We need to be at our best and ever alert to ensure that we do not suffer the same fate.
230, Exocet, 230! Exocet missile head, 230! Timber 1 based on Exocet missile head and fast closing target.
Well, the weapon that worried us most was the Exocet, which is a sea-skimming supersonic missile, and once it's locked on, there's no way you can stop it.
Hands to action station. Hands to action station. Pursuit damage control, state 1. Condition Zulu.
The action alarm went off when I was actually trying to get some sleep. I was in the mess, on the top bunk, and the alarm went off and I just couldn't get off my cart and get my gear on fast enough. So by the time I'd sorted my life out, the Zulu door outside the PO's mess was shut. The rules are you don't open it. So if you're stuck, you're stuck.
Chaff down, sir. Port side. Chaff for distraction, so...
First thing you do is to put chaff into the air, which throws out a pattern of false echoes around your ship, which hopefully seduces the missile to the false echoes and not to your ship.
I picked up the phone and I rang the office and I just said to it, it's so matter of fact, everything okay, Mac? Yep, everything's fine, Pots.
Well, you know we're stuck in a mess.
Yeah,
okay. Anyway, you keep your head down. Take care, okay?
Yeah, you too, Pops. I'll see you when all this is over.
Okay. And that was it, basically. It's matter of fact stuff. You got this impression that's sort of deep in your head that this is a nasty piece of work that's coming towards you. There is absolutely nothing you can do about it. You're probably in the worst place you can possibly be. And you say, cheerio. You tell everybody to take care. You tell your mum and dad that you love them.
Sir, we've lost contact. Air traffic. Anything on your radar? Negative, sir. Another false alarm, sir. Stand down from action station. Start to defense watchers.
Jesus, we made it, boys.
And then afterwards, when it's all over, you feel so bloody stupid.
All morning we've been getting false contacts on our radar. We maintain constant communication with our sister ships to assess the threat. Glasgow is still convinced an attack is imminent.
Coventry and Sheffield, this is Glasgow. We're holding a passive radar contact. We will maintain air warning red and suggest you do likewise.
And I remember Sheffield being less certain about whether there was a threat or not. A lot of talk is still going on. We didn't know where the threat was coming from.
Sheffield! Sheffield!
And suddenly there was silence from Sheffield. Conversation stopped. And I just couldn't believe it. And I thought there must be a communication failure. Sudden, ominous, horrible silence from Sheffield.
We went onto the upper deck and we could see the Sheffield burning from about 11, 12 miles. We could certainly see the smoke on the horizon there where Sheffield was burning. it struck home, the Sheffield, the fact that we weren't as good as perhaps we thought we were.
I remember seeing the Sheffield standing out on the flight deck. Not close enough to see it in detail, but we could see the smoke coming from it. And even at that point, I still didn't even think or worry or think, oh God, you know, we're actually, this is quite serious. Never once. Not even at that stage.
Ross, Ronald, Foxy.
The Type 42 community was, even then, an incredibly close community. We all knew each other. You know people in the ships, and you know something nasty's happened. So your immediate concern is, who's it happened to?
From my point of view, I'd only recently left the Sheffield. All the communications guys on the Sheffield I knew. I guess my heart was in my mouth for a while, and Doc Savage, he'd just come off the chef as well, and we just sat in my office and cried. Openly, and I don't mind admitting it. I just felt so bad. And it was a bit of a shock, I think, when we found out that upwards of 20 had died. It's quite sad, but God, proud to have known him.
Dearest Daddy, I'm doing something called cycling proficiency. It is learning how to cycle on the roads, and you have a test. There is a writing test which I passed, and a cycling test which is on the 10th of May. I haven't done it yet because it's the 8th of May. It is very sad that Sheffield sank. Lots of love, Miranda. P.S. I've got some new shoes.
There did come a point where I did find letters distracting. I was very keen to get a last letter saying everything was well at home, children were all right. And then I wanted to forget home, put it behind me on a sort of happy note. I had to put photographs away of family and Dee. I found that a distraction, because you really have to concentrate on the people, you know, you're leading, and the matters in hand.
New contact bearing 250. CDOT stand 2. CDOT stand 2. Make track 12.
Our radar has detected enemy aircraft coming into missile range. At last, our chance to show what we can do.
We had, I believe, 2 Skyhawks way out to the west that were being tracked in. We locked them up at 65 to 70 miles. It's going to be the first time a Sea Dart was going to be fired in anger. So I was quite excited by that, and so was the ship, and certainly so was Captain Hardike.
Bird FM, hostile track 1211. Hostile 1211, bird target.
We're just listening to what's going on out there. I've got fighter control on one speaker. I've got the internal systems on another loudspeaker. We're just listening to the whole thing. 50 people doing the different things at exactly the same time.
Engage hostile 1211 with CDOT. Launcher following on. Bird away, hostile, take track 1211.
We just get birds away, and you hear the Sea Dart missile go. It's like a big, hollow, metallic, and it leaves this metallic echo behind it, and the whole ship.
Blind visual, blind. This is visual. That's a confirmed Sea Dart kill. Yes. Whiskey, this is Charlie uniform. Hostile splashed by birds.
Well done, chaps.
So the Coventry was the first vessel to fire a sea dart in anger and claim a kill.
It's a very strange feeling that you're actually jumping up and down and saying, "Oh, well done, lads! Somebody's died."
Here we're quite cocooned, if you like, in this little centre here. Although we know what's going on, you don't think who is behind that blip on the radar screen is actually a person with a mother and a father and maybe a wife and children as well. You can't think that way. It is someone who's trying to kill you, and you don't want that to happen.
Our crew is maintaining a grueling routine intercepting enemy aircraft. Sea Dart is proving a formidable weapon. And our Lynx helicopter has just fired the untried Sea Skewer missile.
Come on, you fucker. Should be impact at any minute now.
On its maiden launch, it sunk an enemy patrol boat. Another score for Sam McFarlane's door.
One became very steely, totally uncompromising, and you have no feeling for the enemy. There's no pity, sorrow, forgiveness at that time. You become a pretty angry, aggressive sort of individual. And I was quite surprised, even myself, how I discarded all peacetime thinking and inhibition. You know, rules and regulations became irrelevant. You were totally focused on getting at the enemy and surviving.
The Argentinian pilots are getting bolder with their bombing runs. They've just crippled our sister ship, Glasgow. This leaves the task force with just one Type 42, Coventry. We now have to shoulder the workload of 3 ships, and we're beginning to feel the strain.
Even at 19, I was knackered. You know, we were either, 4 on, 4 off, 4 on, 4 off, 6 on, 6 off, 6 off. And some of those times when you'd go and get your head down, you might be halfway through that sleep and you go to action stations. So you miss that sleep and then you're on watch again. And so, after the length of time we do that for, you get very, very tired. And I remember being in the torpedo magazine and, God knows why, but we had some bubble wrap in there. I was just so tired, I laid on the floor in there and thought to myself, I've got to get some sleep. And the next thing I know, and I thought, you know what, hung, drawn, and quartered, I can't get up, I'm just too tired. And I remember John Caddy stuck his head around the corner and saw me, and I thought, and he shut the door and he turned the wheel. And, that's the sort of guy he was. He knew that we're all tired.
For those of us in supervisory positions, which included myself, I would be working 20 plus hours a day. I spent most of my time living in this operations room or in my office next door. I very rarely got to bed for many days at a time.
Well, I think it's morale, people's morale, that actually makes them endure and show courage in times of fatigue and danger. And I think that's what kept the ship's company going. It was remarkable how they withstood the pressure and the strains.
British forces have now established a firm bridgehead on the Falkland Islands. Royal Marine Commandos and the Parachute Regiment are now ashore in substantial numbers. As we expected, our ships have come under heavy air attack. 5 have been damaged, 2 seriously.
If we fail, the war could be lost. It's going to be a hard and busy time, and we shall be very much in the firing line. But the worst may soon be over, and Portsmouth can't be too far away.
That is all.
What I don't want to broadcast is how vulnerable we are in our new position closer to the islands. Our long-range missiles work best over open sea and cannot cope with surprise attacks from low-flying aircraft coming in over land. We'll be paired with HMS Broadsword, who will try to protect us with her close-range Seawolf missiles. But I'd prefer to be in control of my own destiny. Good evening, Admiral. Admiral, sending us back there will be suicide. We have a damn good ship, and this is a huge risk. Yes, sir, but to be effective, we have to be further out.
I do have vivid memories of the captain talking on secure voice to the Admiral on numerous occasions. Several nights running, the captain asked could we move further out to sea where we could better defend ourselves and still tell the air picture, the long-range air picture, to the task group. And on several occasions, unfortunately, that permission was denied.
He said, "Stay where you are," and he kept sending me back to the same spot. And I realised why we were doing it. If necessary, we were the sacrifice, rather than other ships, which are more important. And that's war. You've got to take risks to win. It's like a game of chess, you know, you've got to give up some pieces to get checkmate at the end. I was one of those pieces. The 24th of May was a good day. The ships of the Sound shot down a number of airplanes, and the Sea Harriers too. And I felt that, you know, the end of the war was probably in sight.
After the watch, Captain. Just about to turn in. Call me if you need me.
But nevertheless, the next day, the 25th of May, was their national day. Emotions would be running high among the Argentinians. So we were expecting the 25th to be a pretty active day. And I personally felt that if we survived the 25th, we would have survived the war. It was going to be a difficult day.
It couldn't be a worse start to the day. We've intercepted an ominous-sounding radio transmission from an Argentinian Skyhawk.
We knew we had been spotted, our position had been reported back to Argentina. We knew they were planning to come and attack us and Broadsword. So it was very uncomfortable, but I suppose it had been a long time coming. But you still don't believe, you know, it's going to happen to you. You know, I think the longer you survive, particularly when others hadn't, you begin to think you're going to survive.
Action to action station. Action to action station. Assume damage control, stage 1. Hostile contact bearing 230, range 30, heading 270, speed 280, low level.
I detected a number of aircraft about 100 miles out to the west of the Falklands.
When they made their landfall on the Falkland Islands, they flew very low among the folds and the contours of the hills, and we lost them completely on radar.
Sir, four fast-moving contacts bearing 200 degrees, 15 miles heading 270 degrees at low level.
4 aircraft sprang out from the land and came herring towards us about 12 miles to the south.
And it was 2 sets of 2 Skyhawks, so therefore we decided then to fight the battle with our Sea Dart.
Blind AWO, make track 1211 hostile. Confirm boards, hostile 1211.
We then lost lock because they were too low because of the landmass that was behind the aircraft.
The hell's Broadsword? I think we're on our own, sir.
Broadsword had the aircraft in her missile sights with Seawolf, but Seawolf had a technical hitch and didn't engage. So she wasn't able to shoot those airplanes down.
Alarm aircraft, red 70! Engage with 4-5 guns. 4-5, engage. Shoot! All upper deck weapons, stand to and fire at will.
I was actually sitting in the torpedo magazine at the time, and I was looking through a NAFI catalogue, And at the age of 19, I was looking at a lawnmower in this catalogue thinking, God, all the money I've saved, I can buy one of those and cut my grass when I get home. Fantastic. At which point the hatch came open.
Pete, we've been attacked! We're under attack!
I went, oh, right, okay, hang on a sec, I'll grab my camera and get some action snaps, you know, which is the most bizarre thing. And I walked round the corner and... Fucking hell! At that point, my war started. I've never been so scared in my whole life, and I hope to God I'm never ever that scared again.
Two bombs were delivered to Broadsword. One missed, the other one hit the sea and bounced up through our quarterdeck, destroyed a helicopter, went over the side, and exploded harmlessly in the sea.
Sir, birds affirm, hostile 1211. 909 contact affirmed. Then shoot the damn thing.
Seconds later, the second pair came towards me.
10 miles. 9.
We tried to engage with Sea Dart, achieved lock very, very briefly, fired my missile, but broke lock, and it went straight up in the air.
Bird miss. 8 miles. 4-5, engage. Shoot! 7 miles. All upper deck weapons stand to and fire at will.
My boss ordered me over the broadcast to switch on this light and blind the pilots. Obviously I've seen the war films before where they shoot the person with the searchlight, so I told him in no uncertain terms that I wouldn't do it. Fuck off! I remember the person screaming down the microphone at me to switch the light on and blind them, and I told him to fuck off again.
4 miles.
Having heard the 4-5 guns start to go, and I thought to myself, they're actually throwing everything they can. And then I heard machine guns. And I thought to myself, Sea Dart didn't work, 4-5 gun didn't work, machine guns, everybody on the deck.
I then heard 2 thumps. It wasn't bangs, it was thumps, which now would appear to be the 2 1,000-pounders penetrating the port side of the ship. There was like a pregnant pause for a few seconds while people were taking stock.
Suddenly there's nothing else we could do, and there's a terrible hush in the ops room, and that seemed to last for a long time.
Nobby Northeast and a couple of the others were actually just sat on the deck with their backs against the CCX, and I said,
Hey, I told you to hit the bloody deck!
Completely lost all my hearing. Everything slowed down. Everything seemed rational. Everything seemed okay. I was no fear whatsoever. No worry. It was almost like someone had given me a day pass for a film they were shooting on a war scene.
The first thing I remember then was a terrific blast. and heat, searing heat. I remember seeing total chaos and devastation in this compartment. People on fire.
The bomb exploded in the computer room, and the next thing I know is just this silence and the flash and the fireball rolling around the operations room searching for the oxygen.
The ops room imploded. The screen itself here in my eyes, seemed to melt in front of me.
My arm was alight. Literally my skin was alight, and I was putting my arm out with my left hand.
I tasted the rubber and the wire going down your throat into your lungs, because you're actually sucking in all the remnants of burning wires and equipment.
I knew the computer room was on fire. I heard the guys in the computer room being burnt to death.
Someone help me! Please!
One of them was still trying to get out of the computer room, and I actually did crawl over to try and pull him up.
Please! Please!
The screams will never leave me.
The smoke was thickening the ops room, and I was suffocating, and I was trapped. But I was quite rational, quite calm. But I saw no alternative but to die. You know, it's not the sort of situation you've been in before. And I was surprised how calm I was about it. I actually was wondering slightly who was going to mow the lawn at home in my absence. But then suddenly, I found myself out of the starboard passage in clearer air. How I got there from 1 minute dying, suffocating in the middle of the ops room to being out there, I don't know. But eventually I came to my senses much more. I felt the whole ship lurch to port. There's an awful feeling that the ship was doomed. You knew it was the death throes of a ship. It was a movement you've never felt before of a ship at sea.
I made my way to the starboard passage, and I realised then that I only had a pair of boots on with certainly a pair of nicks, and a piece of collar of my number 8 shirt was still attached. My anti-flash and everything was completely blown away, apart from my wedding ring and my St. Christopher, which I still wear today. The next person I saw was Sam McFarlane, my old partner in crime.
Chris and I were soulmates. We were on the same frequency. We just hit it off from the very first time we met.
Jesus Christ.
There were cables sort of dangling and going, and I just had to get Chris past him, and I thought to myself, how the hell am I going to deal with this? So I got hold of him, and I took him to the bottom of what was a bloody staircase. The steps had gone, and I thought, oh shit.
Come on, hurry up!
But everybody else was scrambling up the wall, and I just manhandled, kicked, cajoled, shouted at, loved him to bits, cuddled him, got Chris up to the next level. Paddy Burke was the first aider trying to help, and he just looked at me and he said, I need some water.
Okay, go and get some.
And I had a blue plastic mug that held about a pint of tea, and I went back down. I went into the officer's bathroom, and nothing was coming out. So that's okay, I'll flush the toilet. Any water's better than no water.
Oh, come on! Come on!
And there's no water at all.
Oh, come on! Come on!
And I was desperately trying to get this plastic mug down the pan so I could get some water for Chris. And I was absolutely pissed off that I was going to let my mate down because I couldn't get water for him.
Every time I came to action, I always brought Tosh the tortoise with me, and this is the one time he didn't come, and he was still locked in my boot locker. I did think of going down to get him, but when I opened the door and it was just smoke, there was no way I could go back down 4 or 5 decks to try and find him.
In the fresh air, I could feel that I was burnt and I was hurting. Adrenaline kicks in, it was very painful. I didn't know my back was stripped to skin then down to several layers, so it wasn't a thought, it was just survival.
I inflated my life jacket when I was in training. They always drilled it into you that if you overinflate it, when you hit the water, you'll break your neck. If you underinflate it, you'll go down so deep that you won't get to the surface. So you put a bit more air in, you say, well, hang on a minute, that's probably going to break my neck. So you let some air out, you think, shit, that's not enough. Puff, 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 try and get some more air in. And in the end, I just thought, enough's enough. I guess the next thing I saw was just air bubbles going up, and I was still going down. And I thought to myself, you stupid bastard, you took too much air out of your bloody life jacket. I wasn't going to give up, but I thought, what can I do? I seemed to be going down at such a rate of knots that there's nothing I was going to be able to do. And then suddenly, the bubbles were going in the other direction. And I thought, yeah, this is good, this is really good. And then, whoop, just shot out like a bloody rocket.
Keep going, mate, come on,
Keep going. I didn't do my top of my once only suit up. Subsequently, the whole of my once only suit was filled with the South Atlantic, which was a good thing, because it then blanched my burns. It doused the heat with my burns on my back.
I never gave the order to abandon ship. It was actually the only thing to do. And what was remarkable was the normal decision makers, the sort of senior people, were incapacitated. The ops and crew, and myself, I was in no position to give orders. So the decisions to abandon ship, to get all the life rafts in the water, were made by the younger members of the ship's company. Everyone was calm, everyone was helping each other put on their life jackets, their survival suits. And I watched this almost spellbound. I was in no hurry to leave the ship, but it was turning over very rapidly.
And inside the life raft there's canisters with water, cigarettes, which you're not meant to open for the first 24 hours, and I think within 3 minutes that they've been opened and we were eating chocolate and smoking cigarettes.
Fuck me, there's fags in the ration packs. No, I'd given up the 3 months. Cigarettes, sod to give up smoking. I'm starting again.
The life rafts were pretty full, I could see them off the ship. And some sailors and some of the life rafts were shouting, "Come on," to me, skipper, "it's time for you to leave." I was probably the last to leave. I actually walked down the ship's side, which by that time was almost horizontal, and jumped the last 2 feet into the water.
Come on, skipper. Come. We got him. You're off. Yeah, we got him. Here you go. Shut up, Mel. One side, good work. Come on, sir. Go on.
When you leave a ship, I guess you leave a part of you with it. Love her or hate her, she's been your home for X years, X months or whatever. She's been good to you, she's bloody let you down, but you still love her to bits. And looking back as I was leaving, I just couldn't believe that this is my life, and I've got to leave it.
I was probably one of the first out and taken to broadsword. And then I sat in the cabin having a cup of tea. And then an officer came into the cabin whilst I was sitting there, and he said, "Would you like to see your ship?" And there I saw the ship, upside down, its keel horizontal, just a few feet above the water. And probably less than half an hour before, that ship had been a fully fighting, efficient, happy ship. And now it was gone. And that was the last I saw of the ship.